Good evening. Welcome to the Willmar City Council meeting for Monday, October 15th, 2007. Roll call.
Mayor Heitke.
Here.
Councilmember Reese.
Here.
Christensen. Anderson.
Here.
Swenson.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Dockin.
Here.
Fagerly.
Here.
DeBleek.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Thank you, Kevin. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to our council meeting. Tonight, it's a fairly typical agenda with committee meeting reports and a consent agenda. I do want to begin the meeting to explain that Councilmember Christensen is not here tonight, and there's a very personal reason for that. His brother has passed away, and as the mayor and the city council, we extend our condolences to Ron and his family and the family of his brother. His brother passed away on Saturday, and we wish him well and pray for the repose of his brother. So that's why Councilmember Christensen is not here this evening. I want to thank Councilmember DeBleek, who served as the presider of the last city council meeting. Usually I am here. In fact, I only miss a meeting very, very rarely, but it happened last meeting. And at the same time, our Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Reese, he and I were both out of town. That has never happened before, but it did, and the council elected Councilmember DeBleek to run the meeting last time, and he did a very good job, and thank you, Bruce, for doing that.
Thank you, Mayor.
And Mr. Mayor, you did ask me before you went, will you be here? Are you sure you're going to be here? And I said yes. And at the last minute, things changed, so I apologize for that. And I do thank Councilmember DeBleek also, because it was something that I could not avoid.
Once in a while, schedules conflict like that.
Thank you, Doug. It was enjoyable to run the meeting, and everything went off just fine. So
I'm just shutting off my cell phone so it doesn't bother anybody. All right, let's get on with the business of the city. We are at number 4 on the agenda, which is any proposed additions or changes or deletions to the agenda for tonight. Council members? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to
Mr.
the...
Mayor, you have the change order on 0701, 26th Avenue Southwest.
All right, thank you, Mick. Under miscellany, the council has to deal with a change order on project 0701. And I'll have a couple of announcements under the miscellany portion about some community issues. All right, we'll go to the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
second.
We have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Tonight, the agenda includes the minutes of the last city council meeting, the minutes of the hospital board for October 5th, the utilities commission minutes of October 9th, the planning commission minutes of October 10th, the building inspection report for the month of September, the police commission minutes of August 29th, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority minutes of September 11th, minutes from the Senior Citizens Council of October 3rd, and the minutes from the Mayor's Housing Task Force of October 8th. Is there any discussion on any of these items? Seeing and hearing none, there has been a motion and it's been seconded to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We are now down to number 7 on the agenda, which is the Willmar City Council Open Forum. And this is the opportunity for any citizen to step up to the podium and address the City Council if they wish to. Good evening, Warren.
I have the clipboard, so.
Oh, thank you very much. That's helpful. I have here Myron Carlson. Did he want to address the council? Myron, welcome. And again, let me explain to everyone here that I want each of you to introduce yourself with your name and your address for the public record, and it's your chance to speak to the council. We do not necessarily give back answers or respond. It's our position to hear what's on your mind. There may be a question or two, but oftentimes if there's something to be done, it's referred to a committee. So, Myron?
Myron Carlson, 812 10th Street Southwest, Willmar. And I just put my name on there. I didn't have any particular thing, but just as concerned about the water area and the area of Candio High and 10th Street, and you know, just kind of see where the process is. Bring us up to date.
All right, you'll be hearing more about that later in the meeting under the Public Works Committee report.
That'd be fine.
All right, thank you. Bruce Watland. Good evening, Bruce.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Bruce Watland. I live at 909 Meadow Lane Southwest. I agree with all of you here on City Council. I think we need to do something about the water problem. These people that have been affected are good citizens or taxpayers of the city. I think they have every right to expect basic infrastructure. They shouldn't have to worry about heavy rains flooding their basement. And as you consider the proposals tonight from the Public Works Committee, there's a couple thoughts I'd like you to keep in mind. Before we make a commitment of hundreds of thousands of dollars and take out of public use park and recreational area, we need to make sure this is going to be a solution that's going to solve the water problem. I know that's a big question mark. These people on 10th and Candioi have been affected, but there's a number of other areas in the city that are also affected by the water problem. And we're talking a big cost here, and we need to know what we're going to get in return for that. The second point I want to make is that you know that the City of Willmar is very proud of our park system. We have a lot of good parks. I think that's part of why we got to be an all-American city. Before I moved to 909 Meadow Lane, I lived on Carolina Avenue, which is right across from Miller Park. And before I lived across from a park, I had no idea how much our parks are used. When I heard about taking out the shelter in Miller Park and using that as a possibility, I was really dismayed because that park gets an awful lot of use. Now that I live on Meadow Lane, my backyard overlooks Kennedy Field. And again, it may just seem like a softball diamond in a green space, but that gets an incredible amount of use. Meadow Lane, where I live, is only a short street. It's only 2 blocks long. There's 24 children that live on that street. Those kids are over there in the baseball park all the time. They walk through the park on the way to school. And it's not just our neighborhood. The community uses that open space a lot, too. Softball teams practice on the diamond. I'll see people exercising their dogs or practicing their golf. And I think before we start talking about taking this land out of use from recreational purposes, we have to have some proposal for replacing that. I understand retention ponds are used as a way of controlling water in developments. I want to make a distinction, though. When a developer lays out land to use for development and he sets aside land for water retention, that parcel of property is intended for that purpose. I think what the proposals we're going to hear tonight is taking land that was intended for something else. It wasn't intended for retention pond, and so I'm concerned about that. I understand the Barr report was mainly intended to alleviate the problems on 10th and Candioi, but as you know, we got water problems throughout the city. I think we have to look at the bigger picture. I think that's what the city did in 1998 when they had the citywide assessment of the water problem. I've been to the city engineer's office on 2 times, and I've looked at that plan, and I do not recall the mention of a retention pond as a solution to the water problems we have. I do remember one of the recommendations was made to divert water outside the residential areas. And in particular, I remember a lot of the water was to be diverted to County Ditch 23A. And that's the ditch that runs out southeast of town. I would hope the engineer could maybe, city engineer could address some of those possible solutions as it comes up in discussion under the Public Works tonight. So in summary, I'm here to not to stand in the way of a solution for this, because these people need to have some answers, but I ask you to consider the cost of what the proposals are in comparison to the benefit that we're going to get out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Mike Carlson? Welcome, Mike.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Mike Carlson, 1115 Carolina Avenue in Willmar. And I guess the question that I have is, how thorough have we looked at the use of the spaces? This summer, every Saturday morning, my children and I, we sat outside in front of our house listening to the music and watching a group of dancers, Hispanic dancers, practicing at the shelter at Miller Park. We had a picnic a few weeks back for families who have adopted children. We held that at Miller Park. That same day, at the same time, a birthday celebration was being held by a family for their child with inflatable games and everything else. It's very rarely that living across from Miller Park that I see that shelter not being used. It's being used by picnickers. It's being used by St. Mary's Church. It's being used by the school across the street. I'm just curious as to the process, and I'm sure I'll hear that a little bit later, but why we'd want to take something that many consider to be a gem and take it out of use doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, after the presentation was made to the school board some time back, I drove by the area by by Kennedy School, and I can concur with what Bruce said. That area back there is heavily used. I didn't realize how much it was being used, frankly, but I drove by 3 consecutive nights, and each night I drove by that area, there was something happening back on that ball field or back in that green space. It just seems like there's got to be some solutions that are much broader and more sustaining than these that appear to be more of a Band-Aid situation. Now, nobody understands your position probably better than I do, that you have to manage the taxpayers' money as well. You need to be good stewards. But doing a Band-Aid on a much larger issue, I'm not sure if that's the best way to be a good steward. It might be best to try and fix the problem. And I would encourage you to look at that picture, to look at maybe we have to spend more to fix the problem instead of doing the little Band-Aid pieces here and there. And I guess I beg you, or come to you as a concerned homeowner across from Miller Park and ask you, if that is a solution, please reconsider for the children and for the families who so richly love using that city space. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. David, and I can't pronounce your last name here. Oh, Dittmarson. Okay, thank you. Welcome, Dave.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is David Dittmarson, and I live at 900 Walnut Place. And I want to echo a lot of the same concerns that both Bruce and Mike have echoed. I bought that property 3 years ago, and believe it or not, the primary reason, the #1 reason I bought that property is because my backyard is a baseball field. Kennedy. My wife and I shopped for a year and a half. We looked at a lot of places, and I've got an elementary son, and I've been loved sports all my life, and I've got a baseball field and a football field built in right in my backyard, and that's the reason I bought that home. Now, I know that the City Council wants to find a solution, and these homeowners that have had their homes flooded, we all agree, deserve a solution. It looks to me, just from what I've heard and what I've read, that the consideration is about cost or, doing something that would be more long-lasting. It looks like Mike said, that these retention ponds are kind of a Band-Aid idea. They might solve the problem. From what I've heard, you're not even convinced so far from your studies that it would solve the problem. It would maybe alleviate part of it. And now we're talking about taking 3 park areas out. The number of people besides me that live next to them that are using these parks, the children, the families, the churches, the different groups, like Mike said, that are constantly using these parks. And I know, and I'm conservative, so I love to see the council members or at any level of government trying to conserve taxpayers' money. But there's some times when you have to do the right thing. Look at what we're doing with the sewer plant now. We tried a Band-Aid approach to that for many years, and it's a multi-million-dollar project, but it's got to be done because it's the right thing to do. In the long run, the city's going to be better. And if we've got an infrastructure problem with storm sewer pipes that are too small, I think we need to solve it. If it's going to be inexpensive, we got to find a way to do it right, but I think it needs to be done right. The city's growing, and it's not going to change. It's not going to get better. So I think we better look at a long-term program that would solve the problem the right way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. David Becker. Good evening, David.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, Councilman, and women, I'm sorry. I don't have any notes in front of me tonight, but one thing that I do want to address has been touched on by the gracious folks that were here tonight, and I didn't ask them to come. Nor I don't think Warren did either. But I really appreciate their input on this catastrophe. The first thing that I want to state is the fact that this is a City of Willmar issue. This is not a 10th and Candy, Ohio issue. It's not a 10th and Mongalia issue. It's not a 3rd and Willmar Avenue issue or a 19th or whatever your address happens to be. This is a city issue. And it's an issue that, unfortunately, is not going to be resolved by putting in a little creek leading to a holding pond from 10th and Candy, Ohio. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but from everything that I've heard and everything that I've read, the issue starts at the end of the pipe. And until we address, as David Didmarson was so eloquently said, until we address the fact that we need to fix the problem on a big scale, not on just a small little scale. There are many, many, many people in this town that have put up with this for much longer than I have, and it's about time that it stops. I want to just share something with you. At our home, we watch the weather quite carefully. Every time clouds are in the sky, the heart rate starts to increase, and we start to wonder, well, is this going to be the big one or what? And I hate to say it, but my kids are affected. They use our basement. They're the ones that carry out the stuff. And it's not fair. Sorry, I'm being emotional here. Part of your mission statement says, the City of Willmar is committed to providing responsible municipal service in an open, effective, and efficient manner to all the citizens of the local and area community. This is the sentence that I really want you to remember. The ultimate goal is to preserve and enhance the quality of life for future generations. What are we telling our kids right now? I'm sorry, honey. Can't, the basement, we got to clean up down there. And I mean, what are we telling them? This is not just our generation issue. This is future generations' issues. Do you think our kids really want to come back now when they go off to college? Do you think Willmar's real high on their priority? I don't know. But that's something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Warren Jorgensen. Good evening, Warren.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you again. 1000 Candio Avenue Southwest. Thank you again for allowing us to speak to you folks tonight. I just have a couple of things that I want to mention. At the Public Works Committee meeting, Mel's report indicated that there were 16 locations in the city that have reoccurring flooding issues that they've identified through the bar report. I asked Mel which one of those 16 was the worst, that has been doing the most destruction to personal and private property. And he had indicated to me that the 10th and Candioi Avenue one was the one that's causing the most problems at this particular point in time. Fair statement? Close? I guess I would tend to agree with them based on our situation. A lot's been said tonight about retention ponds. Reports have been talking about retention ponds. I stand before you tonight telling you that probably the best retention pond location is at 10th and Candioi. A number of folks have indicated they're not too enthused about losing parks and other valuable property. I think there's some property owners at 10th and Candioi intersection that would very gladly allow their properties to be turned into a holding pond of some sort. Probably would not create problems with anybody else in the city in reference to losing valuable parks and that type of thing. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that our neighbors to the west of us right now, because of the reoccurring flooding issues, have no heat in their house. Their insurance company's been playing games with them, and I feel for those folks. I feel for the Beckers and their children. I must be honest with you, since we've been relocated to the 620 South 1st Street address, my wife and I have finally slept through a rainstorm and not woken up, wondering whether or not we need to move or do something serious to worry about our property, or probably should be worrying about it, but so far the sandbags have been holding. So I hope you understand that this water issue is not just an infrastructure issue. It's affecting a lot of people in this community. The other thing I'd like to ask tonight, and I'm sure you folks probably aren't aware of it, but when we returned from St. Cloud this evening, we noticed a water main break at just south of the intersection of 10th and Candioi, and I'm just kind of curious what that might be from. It's not cold enough to cause frost situations yet, but I'm wondering if any of the city staff might have an idea. I'm just kind of curious about that one. If we got ground shifting or what's going on, but that's basically all I had.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. That's the end of the list, but did anybody come in who wanted to speak to the council that didn't put their name on this list to address the council? Is there anybody else who want to say something? All right. Thank you. Would you pass that down to Kevin? We will then proceed with the agenda. Number 8 on the agenda is the Community Development Committee report for October 4th. Councilmember DeBlee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on our agenda was the service territory agreement with Candioi County Area Power. Bruce Gomes from Willmar Municipal Utilities and General Manager, and Bob Bonowitz, Willmar Municipal Utilities Commission Chair, presented a document which served as a new service territory agreement between Willmar Municipal Utilities and the Candioi County Power Cooperative. The document details the changes in the service territory as well as cost involved in those changes. The term of the agreement is from January 1, 2008 to December 31st, 2024. A long-term compensation model for annexation areas will be included in the preliminary agreement. Several issues remain to be resolved, including whether the Public Utilities Commission has to approve the agreement and how the two parties should define municipal facilities, and what should be done with Allied Power. Once these issues have been resolved, the agreement has to undergo a legal review, and the agreement will come back to the City Council for approval. Item number 2 on our agenda was the Donnerite tax abatement request. Staff presented an informal request from Donnerite for tax abatement on their East Highway 12 facility. The matter had been discussed previously by Donna Wright and the Economic Development Commission staff. The company had been informed that the use of tax abatement for their type of business was contrary to city policy because their business was primary retail and service. Action by the committee was deferred pending a formal request for appearance by the company. Item number 3 was a street vacation. Staff presented a proposal that would vacate a block of 11th Street Southwest between Benson and Pacific Avenues, as well as a small segment of Pacific Avenue to the east of 11th Street. The purpose of the street vacation is to provide a site for a new waste treatment facility, pumping station, and staff had been working with Genio Turkey Store to review alternate locations in that area, and review of those locations, none had been identified by the company or staff, and they were reluctant to acquire a single residency family residence that would need to be demolished for the pumping station. There was a consensus of the committee that the street vacation provided a better location option as long as it was acceptable to the Genio Turkey Store. There was a motion made and seconded for a resolution that the council adopt the resolution setting a hearing for the proposed street vacation for November 5th council meeting. Now I'll introduce that resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution that sets a public hearing for November 5th here at the council chambers regarding vacating a street on 11th Street Southwest between Benson and Pacific Avenues. Further comment or discussion about that? Those in favor say aye. Oh, it's a simple motion?
We have a resolution.
Oh, it's a resolution. Roll call.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
The fourth item on our agenda was the Housing Task Force update. The committee received an update on the Mayor's Housing Task Force. The task force had been meeting bi-weekly since July and is nearing the conclusion of their work. A number of recommendations for changes to regulatory and enforcement ordinances have been proposed, and this will be presented to the council in the future. There being no further items, there is a motion. If there are no questions, a motion to file these minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file the minutes of the Community Development Commission. Any other comments about this? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next is the City Finance Committee report for October 8th. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on our agenda had to do with the Rice Hospital financing. Mr. Fensky of the hospital explained that the original estimate for constructing a new facility to replace the Rice Care Center has been revised upward to $25 million, and that's based on what our projected costs in 2009. The original estimate of $20 million was based on 2007 values. Subsequently, the amount of the hospital's intent to reimburse resolution that we approved at our last council meeting needs to be revised to reflect this new maximum bond estimate. The hospital is a component unit of the city, which pursuant to IRS regulations is required to declare its intention to being reimbursed for bond issue costs before the bond amount determination is completed. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I would introduce a resolution declaring the city, on behalf of Rice Hospital, does intend to reimburse itself for the preliminary bond issue costs incurred prior to the bond amount determination with an estimated maximum aggregate bond principal amount of $25 million.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution that declares Willmar, on behalf of Rice Hospital, to reimburse itself for this bond issue with a maximum aggregate principal amount of $25 million. Comment or discussion? Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's fair to say here that
the Rice Hospital is going to have the state moratorium dealt with because they can't build another facility unless the state will approve more beds, or they can purchase beds from other facilities that don't need them. So if the state doesn't approve this, then this is a moot point. Doesn't approve them allowing them to build additional beds.
Okay. Any other comments here? I have a question for our city. Oh, he's not here today. Oh, Mick, maybe you can somewhat address this. If the hospital goes ahead with this plan and it gets the approval from the state on the bed moratorium, do you have an idea how this would affect our bond rating? You know, incurring another $25 million in debt for this community and this county, what could that do to our bond rating situation?
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it will depend in part on what type of financing the hospital actually chooses. If they do a revenue bond, a straight revenue bond, it would have little or no impact. If they do a revenue bond that's geo-backed, then it could very well have some sort of an impact. But, you know, along with that question is the issue of the financing for the wastewater treatment plant. The school district's talking about a new elementary school, and so when you throw all of these big projects in the pot, then you do have some issues, and that's one of the reasons that's driving this October 30th meeting with the governing boards of the 3 taxing jurisdictions.
I think that's really important, Mick, because we've got to work in cooperation with the school district, the county, and the city together. Otherwise, we're in competition, racing to the finish, you know, to see who gets in and who doesn't. So this meeting on October 30th is with representatives from the county, the school district, and the city.
Yes, sir.
And that's to talk about these bigger projects and how they're all coordinated.
Yes, and we've invited our bond consultants, financial advisors to participate in the meeting as well. And we're also exploring the possibility of trying to get someone from Moody's to come out and participate.
Mm-hmm. Moody's Investment Services. Good. All right, back to the motion on the table. The council has made a motion and seconded for this resolution. Any other comments? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
The next item was the 2008 budget. We continued our review of the budget by considering the city's investment portfolio and the fund balances. The current investment breakdown by fund was discussed with the committee, as well as reserved and designated fund balances that were as of December 31st, 2006, and they included, first of all, restrictions on the use of various funds included in the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund that's anticipated to grow with the loan repayments being received, and which could provide possible funding to attract new business and industry to the industrial park. Funds may also be generated from selling property and other proceeds in the industrial park / old airport area, all of which would need to be considered for specific use only. Another item was RAC 8. That fund is primarily funded by the cable franchise dollars, and they are not restricted. Historically, the council has designated these funds for RAC 8 purposes only. However, the council may consider revising that policy at some point in time. Third item we talked about was the Convention and Visitors Bureau's funds are restricted for CVB use only, and the local option sales tax funds are designated for 4 things. That's the building the connection between the Civic Center and the Blue Line Center, expansion of our hiking and biking trails, purchase of the Willmar Regional Treatment 60 acres of land, and the industrial park expansion. Then we talked about the Community Investment Fund. That was established in 1990 by the council with specific guidelines on how these funds were to be accessed. We did look at the ordinance and reviewed it. To date, it should be noted that the interest earnings on these funds is what we use to fund the city's share of our annual street improvement costs. Going forward, we're going to continue to look for possible funding sources to fund some items that have been identified as major projects that need to be addressed in 2008. Those being entrances to downtown on the east and west side to be open for traffic, quiet zones, and flood control needs to be pursued in various parts of the city. The committee will begin reviewing some specific departmental and other expenditures at our next regular scheduled meeting next Monday. And then a second expenditure review meeting will be held the following Monday. This is a 5-Monday month, so we're going to have 2 consecutive Finance Committee meetings. The November 12th meeting, we're going to need to reschedule due to Veterans Day. And at that time, we're hoping to develop some recommendations so that we can bring them to the full council on the November 26th Finance Committee meeting. The city's Truth and Taxation hearing is set for December 3rd, 2007. So all of that was for information. The final item were some reports. We reviewed the September local option sales tax, the September RAC 8, and the September CVB funds. This was for information only. Unless there's questions, I'd move to file these minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file the minutes of the Finance Committee. Any other comments from council members? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're down to number 10 on the agenda. That's the Public Works Safety Committee report for October 9th. Councilmember Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on the agenda is in regards to what is now the J.C. Park, and that's the one at 7th and Ella on the north side. And in attendance at our meeting was Nathan and Crystal Dosher. They were requesting the city's support to a proposal from them for the replacement of play equipment at this park. And prior to the meeting, the Dozers had met with staff and and also the community ed and rec staff about upgrading the park's play equipment in memory of their daughter Bria. When Bria passed away, the Dozers received money memorials, which they want to put towards this park. They also gave us some information, which is in your packet, in regards to a fundraiser. The proposed equipment for the park would include a portion for 2 to 5-year-olds and then another section for 5 to 12-year-olds. This proposal's been reviewed with the J.C.'s, and they are in agreement with the equipment upgrades. At the end of the presentation by Nathan, the committee expressed a concern that we put a plaque at the park commemorating their daughter Bria and the gift from the Dozers. So, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I would introduce a resolution to approve the development plan for this park as I outlined, and the acceptance of any donations from the foundation to fund the project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution to approve the park development of the what's called the J.C. Park on 7th and Ella, and acceptance of any donations from the foundation of the Dozier family to fund this project. Further comment? I'd like to just inform the council that Bria Dozier was only 20 months old when she died as a result of a tragic accident, and she loved this playground in this park. So the family is standing behind their daughter and making this offer to the city. Further comment about this? This is a resolution. Roll call.
Councilmember Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
As you recall, the discussion in regards to the stormwater situation that we've heard so much about tonight was referred back to the committee. Staff was then directed to prepare a report giving cost estimates and alternatives to controlling this stormwater flooding and zeroing in on 10th and Candio High. The report was titled Surface Water Management Update, and it's dated October 9th, 2007. It was prepared and presented by our Public Works Director and City Engineer, Mel Odens. He gave a very thorough report of stormwater management for Willmar, where the initial designs were significantly different than today's standards. And when it was designed years ago, there was little understanding of rainfall frequency, and also could typically only handle 5-year rainfall events. Today's storm systems, which includes pipes, curb and gutter, overflow, swales, and ponding areas, are typically designed to provide up to a 100-year level protection. In 1998, the first comprehensive stormwater management plan for the city was developed as a result of a study which we all know as the Barr Engineering Study. This study is used as a guide to plan projects, enable the city to grow in a systematic manner. And the study assists our staff in identifying areas that frequently flood within our city. Staff has reviewed these areas, explained the improvements that have been incorporated, and the improvements that have reduced or eliminated flooding in most of the 16 areas identified. The rain event that was measured on August 21st, 2007 was variable throughout the community, but generally is estimated at 3.75 or 3 3/4 inches in about 45 minutes near the intersection of 10th Street Southwest and Candio High Avenue. The table in the report contained and showed an event of this magnitude exceeds the 100-year event. In the 2006 Barr Engineering report, it analyzed possible ponding options that would limit or alleviate this chronic flooding at the intersection of 10th and Candio High. The analysis was to include modeling 3 different ponding scenarios in the Kennedy School area. It appears that increasing pipe capacity and constructing detention ponds within the watershed of 190 acres will be needed to reduce the flooding at the intersection. The report then presented options and related cost estimates for the committee to consider. Detention ponds with estimated costs and capacities were proposed at 4 different locations. The first one was Garfield School. The capacity of that area would be 4,000 cubic yards. Now, we were informed at the meeting, and I believe you said 200 gallons per cubic yard. So you can convert those cubic yards to gallons. So Garfield School is 4,000 cubic yards. Kennedy School is 11,000 cubic yards. Miller Park is 5,000 cubic yards. And then Trott Avenue Southwest and Trunk Highway 40, which would actually be in the area of the railroad tracks and Trott, would be 2,000 cubic yards. The estimates contained figures for both open ponds and underground piping. Also included was the preliminary cost estimate to relocate 6 residents at 10th Street and Candio High and build a detention pond at that intersection. Staff indicated to the committee that the county is developing plans to reconstruct Willmar Avenue Southwest. Right now, there's a 123-inch by 81-inch metal arch storm sewer. Consideration of extending it west during reconstruction to increase storage capacity was discussed. Also noted was that the detention pond proposed at Trot and Highway 40 has the option of being made deeper if the sanitary sewer line, which runs through that same area, and the water main were relocated. It was noted that Miller Park site was not to be considered, so you can rest assured on that one. That was one of the concerns that was brought up. After a lengthy discussion of the options, costs, impacts, along with questions from various concerned property owners, a motion was made. But before I give the motion, I want to clarify something. And as I read this, I felt we needed to, because even in the motion, it's a little bit misleading, I feel. And I think we need to change the motion the way it is in our minutes. I did some research, and I looked at the two different words of retention and detention. And I think in each one of these cases, Mr. Odens, we're talking about detention, are we not? So the difference, if you think about it, we're not retaining water, we're detaining water. So this is going to, and here's to help the council, the mayor, and our public understand. I have some definitions here. A water detention pond, by definition, detains water. When an area is paved or covered with a building, water runs off the property much faster than when it is in a natural state. The total amount of discharge is the same, but the discharge happens over a shorter amount of time. A hydrologist will design a water detention pond to temporarily detain the water, keep the runoff to the desired rate. When the rain ends, though the water detention pond will be empty shortly afterwards. Now, I'm going to tell you what a retention pond is too, but when you think about a detention pond, we have some in our city, and I think probably one of the most visible ones we have within our city that people have to think about is Voss Park. Voss Park is normally a very well usable space, but when we get a heavy rainfall, the water backs up. We might have 2 feet of water in Voss Park. But there's a tile that runs underneath that area, so it detains the water. In the event of a heavy rain, that water runs into that area and it sits there. And then it slowly drains off, therefore avoiding flooding situations. Now, let's talk about a water retention pond. This one retains water all the time. The pond level may go up and down, but ordinarily the pond has some water in it. Stormwater retention ponds collect rainwater quickly through intake pipes that come from areas around the pond. The water is retained in the pond, and some of the solids are able to settle out of the water. Stormwater retention ponds help to manage large rainfall events, but mostly they minimize environmental impact on our lakes and streams. Voss Park, Gesch Park, and the detention pond near the new baseball stadium are typically empty, except during shortly after heavy rain or our spring snow melt. These are detention ponds. The ponds always have water in it, then it's a retention pond. And in our new developments, we have retention ponds, because it settles out all of the
Sediment.
the bad stuff. I don't know what you call it, that we don't want going into our lakes and streams. So I think that should help everybody understand, I hope. And I clarified that before I made the motion, because in the motion, the first reference in here, it says retention pond, and the second reference says detention pond. And I'm going to change the first reference here, where it says retention pond, to detention pond. So it will read, to direct staff to initiate discussion with the Willmar Public Schools to obtain the rights to construct detention ponds in both the Kennedy and Garfield school areas, prepare plans to construct a detention area near Trott Avenue Southwest and Trunk Highway 40, and investigate extending Willmar Avenue storm pipe to the west during the 2008 construction season. I'll make that a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to direct staff to initiate discussion with the Willmar Public School District to obtain rights to construct detention ponds in both Kennedy and Garfield school areas and a detention area near Trott Avenue Southwest and Trunk Highway 40, and also investigate extending Willmar Avenue storm pipe to the west during the 2008 construction season. Questions and comments?
Can I make some more comments,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor? Some of the concerns, and I hear your concerns that were voiced here tonight. One of them was, and I just made some quick notes, but taking this area out of use for recreational purposes. Again, if it's a detention pond, it does not take it out. It will take it out when there's a high rain event. But I believe that the use can be maintained. And then another comment that was made, this land is not intended for a retention pond. It is not a retention pond, it's a detention pond again, and I don't have to go over that again. And the other concern was Miller Park is a gem. We recognize that. I don't remember who said, you said that, I believe. And we are not, we in our discussion at the committee, we said we can't take that out of use. Yes, it could be an area that we could build one of these ponds, but we didn't feel we could take that out of use. We recognize the value of that park. So I just wanted to address those concerns, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Doug. Councilmember Gardner and then Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to visit with staff for just a moment about the report that they gave to committee the other night. And looking at the page titled Options, each one of A, B, and C is labeled detention pond. Is that what you were in fact looking for, or is Mr. Reese's rewording of retention?
No, I changed it to detention.
Okay. These are all detention.
They're all detention.
Understood. Thank you.
Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we were to go ahead with this, what would the approximate cost be for these detention ponds?
The costs are listed
Go to the last page of the report,
on the last page of the
Councilmember.
report.
Okay, so the cost would be how much? I'd like for someone to state that cost.
Well, these are estimated costs at this time. We haven't done specific engineering, but we estimated that a detention area at Garfield would be in the neighborhood of $112,000 to $116,000, and at Kennedy, $95,000 to $130,000. The Trott Avenue Trunk Highway 40 is a much smaller area and estimated at $45,000 to $50,000. We don't have a cost for the extension of the storm sewer along Willmar Avenue until we can have more discussions with the county and determine exactly how far west we can take that line.
So is it fair to say that detention ponds could cost $300,000 to $400,000?
Yes.
Or what's the...
3 to 350.
Okay. And what do you suppose we're going to get for that $300,000 to $400,000? It's going to... I mean, is it the next step in... I mean, this is a really long-range situation. I mean, we should be, in the near future, sitting down with a lot of players throughout Candy Ojai County to come to some resolution in managing stormwater, okay? I don't personally support this. I believe, after talking with a couple of individuals, that the choke point is on ditch 23A over by Cashwise. I think, and we have south and east of Cashwise, we have all kinds of land that we could be looking at over there, and I'm wondering why that was not part of the discussion. It seems to me that we need to have really badly some summary documentation on this that we don't seem to have, because I've heard the public ask, where's the final report on the draft report of the bar engineering report of 1998? We don't have that. So my request tonight would be that we prepare a summary document dealing with what you're planning to do right now. In other words, in problem solving, we should come up with some ideas on what, in fact, the problem really is. Maybe there's 3 or 4 or 5 different reasons why we have this problem, but we discuss them thoroughly with the current data. Let's say that that of the 3 or 4, we picked number 3. We should then say we picked number 3, knowing it's going to cost $300,000 to $400,000 for these reasons. That way, we have some openness and some transparency within our system as to why we are doing this, so that 9 years from now, when most of us probably won't be on the council, at least I won't, we can say, this is what we did, and this is why we did it. And I think the public deserves to understand that. And I don't, listening to these fine folks tonight, I don't think that they agree with this, and I don't agree with it. I don't think detention or retention ponds in the park areas are or is the place to go. We need to be back over in the Waterview Business Park, in and around the current wastewater treatment plant. I think we need to look at doing some things over there temporarily to detain or retain water, and not in our park areas. And I don't support this.
Second. Councilmember Reese.
We've, as a committee and staff, and looking at the bar engineering study, and this was reported to us when we first looked at the bar study, and that's where we came up with the idea to look at the Kennedy area for a retention pond and the Garfield area, because we've got 190 acres basically north and west of the Kennedy School. Now, this is my understanding of it, north and west of the Kennedy School, that drains into a low part of the city. We have got, yes, somebody mentioned undersized piping. We do. But are we going to dig up the whole city to replace that? But if we can detain that water for a period of time and let it drain off slowly, we've got a 109-inch, is that correct, on Willmar Avenue? And then it comes down, no?
123.
Excuse, what is it, Mel? I thought it was 109.
It's an arch pipe, metal arch pipe, 123 by 81.
But then it goes down to 109, and then it goes to 72, I think.
I mean, it transitions down, correct?
Yes. So, you know, if my understanding, and I'm not the engineer, But my understanding is, if you want to call it a choke point, I believe the choke point is at that point where we've got all of this 190 acres and all of these storm sewer lines running into that 72-inch. Then it goes from 72 to 109 up to 127, whatever it is. But it isn't at the end of the pipe. It's within the pipe itself, where we're trying to jam all this water into that little area in a short period of time when you have a high rain event. So I think that it's being responsible in the development of these detention ponds, because we're talking about, like we said, 300 to 350,000, and that's an approximate figure. Like they said, they haven't done any engineering studies on it. I don't even know, we haven't even asked them what the cost is to put the pipes in, and somebody will say, well, yeah, you should do that, but I think it's worth the $350,000, because if we can detain all of those gallons, and I totaled it up at the meeting, and I don't remember what it was, when you take all those cubic yards times 200 gallons, it's a significant detain on the high rain event. So I think we have done our homework. I think that these detention ponds are what we need.
Other comments? Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of the things that we have to wrestle with in our own mind is, can we ever build something that's going to accommodate 3 3/4 inches of rain in less than an hour? I mean, I know we've had some heavy ones and some big ones in the last few years, but I think to engineer for that level of a rainfall event probably would be over-engineering and overspending. Now, we asked, and we talked about this through the Finance Committee too, we asked for a plan. Then we'll look at a way of funding it, and I think this is the start of a plan. We're not committing to anything. All we're doing right now is asking the school district, is this something that you would be willing to listen to on our part? So I think it's a plan, and I'm in favor of moving forward with it.
Councilmember DeBleek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You talk about the choke point, and how fast does the water leave down ditch 23A. Now, Lake Waganda is set at a level down there that is set by DNR. And how long has that lake level been at its current setting? Do you know, Mel? So at any point, the water is not going to run down that ditch any faster than it does right now, because there's no place for it to really run to. So I think our only solution to this here is to try and detain some of the water and hold it back so it doesn't try and run out as quickly, and have some places where that water can go to, and it can be detained before it enters that ditch. So.
Can I again, Mr. Mayor?
All right, Councilmember Reese.
The mayor quickly did some math for me, and it's 3,400,000 gallons if his math is correct. But to address what Councilmember DeBleek just said, and I want to confirm this with staff. I don't know who wants to answer it, but I believe we've got quite a bit less than a foot of drop from the end of our discharge to Wakanda.
It's about a foot.
It is about a foot. Okay.
Other comments from council members here? Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I do want to thank Councilmember Reese for going back and getting the proper definition and setting me straight on that. I am conflicted with this because I don't know that these types of things that we're talking about tonight are going to be the solution. I agree that we need to go forward with the recommendation and ask the school district to determine if they want to enter into that discussion with us. But I guess the question that I raised at committee and that I raise here now is, if the school district says no, then what? And particularly for those long-suffering folks at 10th and Candy Ojai, to me, the recommendation, the options that were given us at committee, one of them was to purchase property at that block and construct a detention pond there. And I'm hearing some folks tonight saying, don't shortcut this. And I suspect myself that if we're going to hear from the school district that they're not interested in providing these areas as a solution, then really that's the only other feasible solution left for taking care of the problem at that intersection. And Councilmember Dockin rightly says that we have issues elsewhere, not just in town, but to the south and east of us. The longer range solution has to be found with a number of different governmental units and agencies regarding Grass Lake, and we need to frankly push that harder from our end of things and try to get some kind of long-term solution there. And yes, these things are going to cost money. As it was pointed out earlier, we bit the bullet on the waste treatment plant, and for stormwater capacity and for stormwater quality. We're likely, if we're going to develop as a city with commercial and industrial and residential developments, we're going to need to invest more to solve that problem.
Councilmember Swenson.
Dollar for dollar, or can someone put some kind of a percentage on what kind of a guarantee we have? Like, what will this alleviate, like the detention ponds?
I think that would be hard for anybody to really give you.
I mean, that would
You
be
talking
nice
about
to know.
odds or
that
what?
Would be nice to know.
I don't know how you'd do that.
Well, one thing we know is that if if there were detention ponds and they were all filled up at the same time, they would detain 3,400,000 gallons of water. 30%. That's one thing we know.
We estimated that those detention areas would hold back about 30% of the water headed to that intersection.
Pardon me?
It would hold back approximately 30+% of the water headed to the 10th and Candy Ojai intersection.
30%?
Mm-hmm.
They'll keep 70% in the house and in the basement.
Please, this discussion is for the council. Thank you. Thank you. I have a couple questions for staff and one for our city attorney. Would somebody on the staff explain what a park would look like that was set up for a detention pond and a park? You know, like Garfield has a hockey rink, and the hockey rink is only there in the wintertime. In the summertime, it's a soccer field. Kennedy has baseball fields, softball fields. What would happen to those kinds of facilities? And would it mean you'd have to take any kind of equipment or gyms or whatever you call it out of the detention area of the park and it'd just be open?
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and the general public, I think that Mr. Reese mentioned Voss Park. I think about the different retention areas around the community, and that's probably one of the best examples I can come up with. I think if people go out and look at it, if you're driving by Voss Park, not thinking about flooding, you wouldn't know that that was a retention area. I mean, the slope is very gradual. The park is used as a park by the neighborhood as long as we don't have torrential rainfalls. And when we do get those torrential rainfalls, of course, then you've got a problem for 2 or 3 days before it drains out. I think that if you looked at the area at Kennedy School and over at Garfield, and we were to do some detention work, did I say retention earlier? Is that
Yes,
why you were smiling at
That's
me?
right.
Detention, if we were to do some detention work, you would be hard-pressed to see the difference. The hockey rink, the ice rink at Garfield, could continue to be placed there in the wintertime. It's a very gradual slope. The area at Kennedy School, again, we haven't gotten into any specific design, but we were of the thought process that the retention area would be as far south as we could possibly place it, not impacting the ball diamonds at either Kennedy or Garfield. But again, until we get into design, it's all concept at this point.
My other question is for the city attorney. If Councilmember Reese's motion to change it from a retention to a detention pond, does that require any more public notice than what is happening right here tonight? No. We don't have to delay the vote on that. All right, thank you. Councilmember Swenson.
From what I'm hearing, and I wasn't at the Public Works Committee meeting, but what we would be spending and losing is not worth 30% of a gain. I'm not in favor of it either.
Anyone else? Councilmember Dockin?
If the school, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If the school does not go along with this, what would your second choice be? If we can't build retention ponds at Kennedy and Garfield, obviously in your discussions on ways to solve this, what's number 2?
I think that, and you can check with the city attorney, but I'm of the opinion that you could take the property by eminent domain if you felt that it was that important.
Okay, and if we chose not to take it by eminent domain, what's our second choice? Which area would be our second choice to construct these ponds in?
When we were asked to look into this, we were specifically directed to focus on 10th and Candy Ojai. If you want to build detention areas in that neighborhood, you look to the open areas, or as an option, you start buying up private property. And we looked at one of the options on the last page of that report was a detention area at 10th and Candy Ojai, where we were suggesting that in order to have a significant impact in that area, you should buy at least 6 of those homes.
We have a 16-bed mental health facility coming along. We're looking at building a school over in the southeast part of Willmar. It would just seem pretty clear to me that we need to look at southeast Willmar and widening ditches, digging ditches deeper, looking for some retention areas in that area.
Well, I think Mr. Reese touched on some of that earlier. The Grass Lake project will help. One of many different projects, perhaps, that are needed to come up with a solution. I'm not an engineer, but if you dump 4 inches of rain at the intersection of 10th and Candy Ojai, I don't care if you have a mega hole in southeast Willmar, that water can't get there fast enough to avoid flooding at that intersection.
Okay. We have a motion, and it's been seconded. It's on the table.
I'd like to clarify one more thing.
Councilmember Reese?
Please. You know, Councilmember Dockin brings up the possibility of or I don't remember, maybe you didn't, but we had the discussion anyway, in regards to the properties and the 6 homes and the purchase. And again, no intense study has been done on this, so everybody understands. We're talking $300,000 to $350,000 to detain 17,000 cubic yards. 17,000. If we look at 10th and Candio High and making a detention pond by removing households, we're talking $1.1 million for 4,000 cubic yards.
Mr. Mayor, can I explain those numbers? Because that question was asked of me.
Mick, hold on. Do you want to, anything else you want to say?
No, that's fine.
All right.
That question was asked of me at the committee meeting the other day. When we were trying to determine what the cost of acquiring those properties might be, I had to rely in large part on the Uniform Acquisition and Relocation Act. That law requires public bodies, when they're purchasing private property, to purchase at a fair market value, to provide for a housing replacement payment in the event the fair market value purchase price does not equal what is needed for comparable replacement housing, and then moving expenses. And I used a worst-case scenario in all 3 calculations. I started out by looking in our own records and determining the estimated market value that we have on the books for property tax purposes. I added an arbitrary number to that, recognizing that in all of my experiences, nobody has ever sold their home to the city of Willmar for what we had it on the books for property tax purposes. I then included the maximum amounts for housing replacement payments and moving expenses, the demolition of the 6 homes. Granted, some of them might be moved from the site, I don't know, and construction of that retention area. And then I included a 10% contingency to come up with that number. So, I have to believe it's on the high side.
And what were the figures?
It's at the end of the
It's
report.
at the end of the report. If you go...
$1.1 million.
Yep.
I saw that. But for how many gallons?
Well, it was 4,000 cubic yards, if I'm not mistaken. It's right above that in C, 4,000 cubic yards. Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
If I may. I'm hearing a lot of negatives on this. I am convinced this is going to alleviate the problem. It's not going to eliminate, all right? But it certainly is going to help to detain those large volumes of water. And we need to alleviate the problem for the people that live in that area. And what we're asking by this motion, if you look at it, we're asking the school district for rights if they allow us to do so. It'll still come back to committee, it'll still come back to council, because we still have to plan it. What we're looking for is the ability for staff to go to the school district right now and just ask them, what do you think? Can we do this or not? We've got to do something. And this is the most cost-effective way for us to do it. The most least expensive for the city, for the taxpayers.
The council has to come to a vote here. The motion's on the table. One last call for any comments or statements. Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we wanted to do the right thing back in '98. That's when we hired Barr to do the study, because we had this big Grass Lake project. We wanted to make a holding pond, have generators and pumps there. Appropriation committee from legislature came out. We met out on Willmar Avenue overlooking it, and they laughed at us. They said, "You aren't going to get any funding for that." It was going to cost, what, $3 million back then to get the pumps? $4 million? Yeah. It's probably $6 or $8 million now to do the same thing. And we found out that wouldn't alleviate the flooding today, even when we get 4 inches, 3 inches in a short period of time. So there is no real solution to it if we get that much rain in a short period of time. And I agree, this is probably our best option so far to help detain the water. So.
Is the council ready to vote on the motion? You ready to vote? Roll call.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
No.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 nay.
The resolution passes. Staff is now directed to go talk to the school board. All right. Thank you for the discussion. It was very thorough. Back to Councilmember Reese for the minutes here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The third item on the agenda was in regards to the acceptance of the reconstruction project 0504 of Willmar Avenue, which was a project that was done in conjunction with Candioi County. And there was an agreement between the city and the county to reimburse for appropriate costs, and it was entered into at the time, and the final amounts have been received. The invoice is higher than originally anticipated due to the inclusion of the replacement of the water main from 4th through 12th Streets. The cost for this replacement will be funded mostly from the MUC. The project's now complete, and the staff recommends final acceptance and payment to the county and revision of the budget to show the additional funding. So, Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to accept Project 0504, authorize payment to Candioi County in the amount of $784,680.38, and what's the two resolutions, Kevin?
Budget afterwards.
Okay. And so I just stopped there, right?
Mm-hmm. One at a time.
Yeah, that's the first resolution.
Second.
Okay, so you're making that a motion?
Yes, sir.
And Rick, you seconded it? All right, so we have a motion and a second for a resolution to accept Project 0504 and then authorize payment to Candioi County in the amount of $784,680.38. Any comments about that? Roll call.
Councilmember Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
And, Mr. Mayor, I would introduce a resolution to adjust the budget in a like manner to show the additional costs.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution to revise the budget for Project 0504, and that will reflect the additional costs. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
Next item on the agenda was in regards to some of our signal improvements, and Short Elliott Hendrickson has prepared a supplemental agreement, which would be number 1 with Granite Ledge for project 0705, which is the 19th Avenue and 5th Street signal system. This agreement covers several cost deductions for work that were eliminated, and the project amounting, the reduction in the project amount is $266.52. So I would introduce a resolution, Mr. Mayor, to accept the supplemental agreement number 1, authorize the city administrator to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution titled Supplemental Agreement Number 1 to, this is for project 0705, and reducing that amount by $266.52 with Short, Elliott, and Hendrickson. Further comment about that? Roll call.
Councilmember DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
Then there's supplemental agreement number 2, which is also in regards to some signal work by Granite Ledge Electrical, and it's a price quote from them for additional work on First Street and Trott Avenue signal systems where we have had some problems. There's 10 items at a cost of $3,757. They're maintenance items. They'd be funded from the Public Works budget. So, Mr. Mayor, I would introduce a resolution to accept supplemental agreement number 2 and authorize the city administrator to sign on behalf of the city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution titled Supplemental Agreement Number 2 with Short, Elliott, and Hendrickson for some maintenance issues here in the amount of $3,757, maintenance on some electrical light systems. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
Next item is in regards to our airport maintenance. As you know, we have a biannual agreement through the state for reimbursement of costs for maintenance of the airport. During 2008-2009 fiscal years, from July 1 through June 30th of each year, the amount is a not-to-exceed figure of $51,636, and this is an increase over our previous agreement of $8,274. I would introduce a resolution, Mr. Mayor, to approve the agreement with the state and authorize the mayor and the city administrator to sign on behalf of the city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution to approve an agreement with the state of Minnesota for airport maintenance and operation for a figure not to exceed $51,636. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
There's no further, there was no further business, Mr. Mayor. I would move to file the minutes, and if there's questions, we'll entertain them.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file these minutes. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're on number 11 on the agenda, consideration of a resolution authorizing and directing the filing of eminent domain proceedings. I'd like to welcome Craig Holmes from Donahue & Associates. Craig, would you explain what this is about?
Yes, I will. Mayor Heike, members of the council. Back in the middle of September, council passed just compensation resolution number 1, which authorized staff to extend offers to purchase parcels needed for the conveyance corridor for our wastewater project. Those offers to purchase have been extended to the property owners that were listed in the just compensation resolution number 1. We have had some discussions with those property owners, and in one case we found that the owners actually had changed on 2 of those parcels. At this point, we have not reached agreement with those property owners, but those discussions are continuing. This resolution authorizes Kennedy and Graven on the city's behalf to file the necessary proceedings to acquire these parcels by eminent domain should our negotiations not result in acquiring them by purchase. So once we have reached the point where it is not likely that we will resolve it and acquire the property by negotiations, then Kennedy and Graven would file the proceedings in court to acquire those properties by eminent domain. So this is the first of two, hopefully only two, eminent domain resolutions that you'll see.
Thank you, Craig. Please wait in case we have questions about this. Any council members wish to ask any questions? Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Craig, is there any sort of a timeline with this? In other words, first of the year? Or?
Well, I think in order to keep the program on track and meet our compliance deadline in 2010, the amount of time we have left to work out these types of things is growing shorter. The truth is that once the proceedings are filed, we can still settle. We can still reach an agreement without going the distance. We can always do that, but it has to start at some point when we don't think we can reach agreement.
Anyone else? Just a question, have any of the property owners come to an agreement with the city's offering here yet?
No, sir.
All right. Anyone else? Kevin, we have a motion on the table?
Resolution. No, we do not, sir.
All right.
I'd introduce the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution authorizing Kennedy and Graven, a legal or a law firm, to file the necessary proceedings to acquire the real estate interest described in the attached resolution via eminent domain. Further comment? Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Craig, what we're doing is a quick take, correct?
That would result in a quick take. That's
If we have to go that, where the city will obtain fee title to the property.
That is correct.
And you'll be able to go ahead, and then it's simply a matter of process as to what the final, not unlike the stadium in the Twin Cities, which was just settled. It could go down that road, but the fact is that we will have fee title to the property and we'll be able to proceed in as timely a manner as we can.
That is correct. There are still proceedings, including appeals, that these owners may have at their disposal.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on the council? This is a resolution. Roll call.
Councilmember Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Thank you, Craig, for the explanation. We're on number 12, the consideration of a resolution regarding just compensation. Is that part of this?
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead.
Mayor Heike, members of the council, you have in your packet just compensation resolution number 2. And what this represents is starting that same process for the next 6 parcels. Just compensation resolution number 1 started at the far west end on County Road 116 and moved eastward. Number 2 continues that process further to the east, as far east as 30th Street. We anticipate that in the future, perhaps at your next meeting, there'll be one more for the remaining acquisitions. So this is for 6 parcels. This resolution authorizes staff to present similar offers to the next 6 parcel owners for the right-of-way corridor for the conveyance facilities.
All right. Council?
I'd introduce the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution that allows city staff to extend offers to purchase land parcels, 6 of them, for wastewater conveyance facilities at a price equal to their appraised value. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Thanks, Craig. Next is a consideration of a resolution for agricultural exemption of special assessments. Kevin, could you explain that, please?
Mayor Heitke, members of the council, pursuant to our comprehensive assessment policy, we offer agricultural deferments on parcels of land that continue to be used as agricultural purposes in the various improvement projects throughout the years. You have before you a list of properties and property owners and projects and those dollar amounts that annually we record to defer those amounts and not collect them. You've done this in the past. The only change this year has been in number 3, the Gesh properties, whereby certain projects have been lowered from the acreage sale to the county for the state psychiatric hospital that's being implemented off of Olena Avenue. Otherwise, this is similar to prior years, and it's staff recommendation that we adopt the resolution for these parcels in agricultural land for the next collection year, 2008.
All right.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution verifying ownership. Wait a second. I'm sorry. What's the resolution? Let's see.
Exempting qualifying landowners.
Exempting landowners who qualify
Special assessment.
for special assessments. Thank you. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is the consideration of an annexation petition by Donald and Carol Williamson. Bruce, would you explain that?
Mayor Heitke, members of the council, the city received a petition from Don and Carol Williamson for the annexation of a little over 12 acres of land that's located on Southwest 15th Street. It's on the east side of 15th Street. The Planning Commission considered the request at their meeting of last week and recommended approval of the annexation. It's a recommendation of staff that the council adopt the resolution verifying ownership and introduce the ordinance for a hearing at the November 19th, 2007 council meeting. And the reason we're recommending that you go out that far is because in 2006 there was an amendment to the annexation law that requires 30 days published notice for annexations.
All right, thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt a resolution verifying ownership for this land that's been petitioned for annexation and introduce the ordinance at a public hearing on November 19th, 2007. Further comment? Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bruce, I see that it's going to be rezoned R1, one-family residential. What is it right now?
Right now, it's not in the city. I'm guessing the county has its own agricultural.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Roll call? Or is that a simple motion?
No, roll call. Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes. Next is a consideration of a final plat called Business Park Second Edition. Bruce?
Mayor Heitke, members of the council, the Planning Commission at their last meeting reviewed the final plat of Waterview Business Park Second Edition, which is a two-lot plat of the Walmart site. It's a plat that does nothing more than separate the gas station site of that property from the store portion of the property. The final plat approval by the Planning Commission included 2 conditions regarding an access easement agreement, which has been drafted, and also that the pending assessments be either paid in full or reapportioned, and it was a statement by the person representing Walmart that those assessments would be paid in full rather than be reapportioned. So with those conditions, staff recommends approval of the final plat.
Thank you, Bruce.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the final plat called the Waterview Business Park Second Edition. Further comment about that? Simple motion, Kevin. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Under miscellany, we have a change order. Mick, could you explain that? Or Mel?
Mayor, members of the council, I laid in front of you a map of an area of Willmar in the vicinity of 26th Avenue Southwest between 6th Street and 8th Street. It's a 1,000-foot length of street, 18 homes, which in the last 2 weeks have experienced numerous water main leaks. The soil down there isn't conducive to maintaining a water main. If you recall, we had the same problem on 26th Avenue just east of there a few years ago. We didn't include the water main in the street, and when we got to the reconstruction, we started having leaks during construction, and we added the water main. Well, this time the water main started breaking a year before we're ready to rebuild the road. So we discussed it with the municipal utilities staff, and we really have two options. We've got about half the homes on temporary water, patch part of it, or replace the whole main from 6th to 8th Street, as we would do next year in the reconstruction. So it's our recommendation as staff to replace the main as a change order number 1 with Dunix in the 0701 project and get that. We do not assess water main, you may recall, so that's a city cost. And you replace the water main this year, patch the street, and then reconstruct the road next year. And the estimated cost is between $60,000 and $65,000.
Thank you, Bruce. Or Mel, thank you. Any other comments or questions about that?
Move to approve the change order.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this change order in the amount of approximately $60,000 to $65,000. Further comment about this? Councilmember DeBleek?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a quick question to the financing plan for that. Is that in the bonds, or how is that being paid for?
Mr. Councilman DeBleek, the municipal utilities would cover just a little over half of it, and the other would be taken out of the current contract or the contingency set up in the 07 budget.
Anyone else? Again, Kevin, a roll call?
Yes, sir.
Roll call?
Councilmember DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. We're near the end of the agenda. I just want to point out to our citizens that the history of Willmar has made some is in good company because there's a new exhibit in the Twin Cities called the Minnesota History Center. That's where it's located, at the Minnesota History Center. What they're doing is depicting the top 150 stories or exhibits of historical events or people or experiences around the state of Minnesota since the state was founded. And Willmar has been included for the history of the Willmar 8. And as many of our citizens will remember, the Willmar 8 was a protest by employees of a local bank about wages for women employees. And this event, although a local issue, became a national issue as the years went by in addressing labor issues related to banking. This issue has now been included in the 150 historical events for the state of Minnesota. This exhibit is currently being hosted at the Minnesota History Center, and we certainly encourage our citizens, if they're in the Twin Cities, to try and visit the exhibit, not only to see the Willmar exhibit, but to see all the historical exhibits from around the state. This event opens, it did open last Saturday. Let me get the right date on that. No, it opens, yes, it opened last Saturday, and it's located on 345th Kellogg Boulevard in West St. Paul. So just wanted to pass that on to our citizens. Also, we've received information that one of our city council members, Mr. Christensen, will be included in a story on KSTP Channel 5 on Sunday night, November 4th, when he and his musical partner, Bob Salisbury, who are involved in the classics, the musical presentation that Ron and Bob have put on many, many times around west central Minnesota and elsewhere. They're going to be featured at 10:30 on KSTP Channel 5 on Sunday night, November 4th. City Council meeting dates. Finance.
Mr. Mayor, the Finance Committee is going to meet on both October 22nd and October 29th.
Finance, October 22nd and October 29th, 4:45. Public Works, Public Safety.
We're going to change our day from our normal Tuesday to Wednesday, the 24th at 4:45.
October 24th, 4:45, Public Works, Public Safety. Community Development?
Community Development has no meeting scheduled at this time.
Labor?
No meeting, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any other announcements to come before the council tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion to it. Oh, wait a second. Police Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just mention that tomorrow between 3 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the Willmar American Legion is hosting a reception in honor of Sergeant Julie Osmus being named National American Legion Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. So you certainly are welcome to attend that event and honor her for that great achievement.
3 to 5 p.m. Tuesday afternoon at the American Legion.
That's correct.
Thanks, Chief. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn, and it's been seconded. We are adjourned.